funny, she's smart, she craves chocolate every day, and she is the Greek goddess of comedy. Here is your host, Ellen Karis.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Karis' Comedy Corner. I'm Ellen Karis, and I am very excited to be here. Before we bring on our guest, who I've been begging to come on for like 2 years, so it took this to get him to come on, which I'm grateful for. But I want to say a thank you to our sponsors who are still with us. Our first sponsor is Baywalk Marketing. Go to their website, baywalk.net, for all of your advertising and marketing needs. They can help you with any kind of social media, which we all are on now. They can help you with any kind of advertisement for your business. They're also experts in the Greek community. Go to their website, hollywoodgreeks.com, for all of your Greek entertainment needs. Entertainment will come back. I don't know when, but it will come back. Also, HellenicFestivals.org to tell you where there is a Greek festival near you. Let me tell you something about the Greeks. Nothing's going to stop them from putting on a festival and eating. Trust me. So go to the website. Baywalk.net is the website. Baywalk Marketing is the company. CEO, President Dean Tripodis, thank you so much. We are so grateful to you. Also, our other sponsor is Select Flex. What is it? It's an orthotic. What's an orthotic? I'm going to show you, because usually we're doing this audio, but we have actually a video. This is the box. It's Select Flex. It's an orthotic. This is what it looks like. And let me tell you the beauty of this, and this is so much better that I can do this visually, is that there is, I didn't rehearse this, as you can tell, there is an adjustability in the arch, and you can make the arch firm, or extra firm, depending on what your needs are. I have these in all of my shoes. I cannot work out without these. These are over the counter. And for Karis Comedy Corner listeners, there's a 25% discount if you put in the code FAMILY25. And there is also a great 30-second video to tell you exactly how this genius product works. I always say they're the best thing since Suitcase on Wheels. And here's the little key. And again, like I said, maybe next time I'll rehearse this. Okay, let's get to our guest. Seriously, one of my favorite comics ever. When I say that this man is beloved, I don't use that term loosely. He is beloved by the industry. The audience loves him. You've seen him, because everybody has seen him somewhere, somehow. Aside from the fact that he's been doing comedy for at least, I think, 30 years. We'll get that. We'll get that right, because we'll ask him. He has been on David Letterman. He's had Comedy Central specials. You might have seen him as an actor also. He was on King of Queens. He played Kevin James's friend Larry. And he is known as, one of the many things he's known as, is the warm-up guy, because he has warmed up for so many audiences. Rosie O'Donnell's show. And he's also been on camera, not just warming up behind the camera. He is the warm-up person for the Rachel Ray show. He has also warmed up for the Survivor finale and The Apprentice, which we definitely have to find that about that. Does tons of private shows. Vegas also, the Borgata, you name it, he's been there. Tours with the Soprano guys as well. We love him. You know him. His name is Joey Kola.
I had to buy my wife a new cat recently because the old cat's fucked up. First of all, anybody got cats? Who's got cats? Anybody got cats? Now watch this. Who's got dogs? Anybody got dogs? Who are my dog people? Good. Now you see what happens? The dog people like their dogs. They're like, my dog, although I hate cleaning up his shit, he's the happiest guy in the world. Every time we come home, it's like the loyalty and the happiness. Oh my God, they're back again! They're home! They're home! This is the 5th time today they made it home! And they got food! Where'd they get the food from? Where did they get it? I don't understand! Wagged in his whole body. Could you imagine being that happy? Even if the IRS made a mistake and gave me an extra $5 grand, I don't know if I could wag my whole body every time. Oh my God! Cats don't give a shit. My cat is like, look, I threw up over there, the litter box smells, I'm taking a nap, you're an asshole. Oh yeah, here's something for you. Little hairball for you, how's that? Not big enough? There's a whole nother cat for you, look at that. What is that noise cats make before they throw up? It's like they're talking to you. Let go, my ego! Let it go! Let it go! Let it go! Let it go! Let it go, my ego, Joe! Let it go! Hi-ho! Hi-ho! Like the teacher from Charlie Brown. La, 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 la.
Hi. Hi, Ellen. Wow, you're going to make me cry with that intro. That was beautiful. Thank you for saying those nice things.
I love you. I really do.
Oh, you.
You are, first of all, you are so talented. And I want to say this right off the bat before I forget. One of the first times I met you, you walked into Brokerage, which is one of the 3 comedy clubs on Long Island.
Yep.
Which is your backyard. Long Island is your backyard. And I'll never forget, you came, you introduced yourself. So nice. There's no air about you. You've performed with everybody. You've met everybody. You're friends with so many people. If I didn't know that, I wouldn't know that. And you walked right up, you put out your hand. Hi, I'm Joey. Oh yeah, I heard about you. Nice to meet you. I love that. I love people that are genuine like that. And then of course, they're like, Joey, you want to go up? And you're like, yeah, okay. You were in your shorts and your, sandals. I don't remember. You just like, you came from your house and went on stage and you just, you were hilarious. You were hilarious.
Thank you.
Your energy, and I'm just like, oh my God. Well, first of all, now I know why he's Joey Kola. And it was great. It was so impressive.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that.
Again, and you're known for your energy and your likability, and it's just great. And you talk about everything. I mean, the marriage, kids, society, the pets, everything, Long Island, Vegas, whatever it is, you can talk about. So I have to ask you, you're Long Island, are you born and bred in Long Island?
Born in Brooklyn. Born in Brooklyn. My mom was from Williamsburg. My father's family was from Ridgewood, Maspeth area, and then I grew up on Long Island. But we were in Brooklyn. We were in the city every weekend because we were the first family to move from the city to Long Island. So all the families, my mom's side and dad's side, would never come out to Long Island. You might as well go to Australia. So every weekend we were in the city anyway,
So you have that Brooklyn-esque about you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And are you all Italian, by the way?
I'm half Italian, half German. Want to take over the world, but I want to eat first. That's the way that comes. That's the joke that goes with that. Yeah. No, my dad was German. My mom was Italian, but I grew up mainly on the Italian side of my family, which is just like Greek. I mean, Galactopodico Parmesan is what we used to have.
Oh my God. It is. I know. No, Italians and Greeks are simpatico.
Oh my God. When you were just mentioning the Greek, when you say Hellenic or anything Greek, right away my mouth waters. It's my favorite cuisine. It's the Mediterranean. We have a place here in Merrick by me called Santorini, and my wife and I at least once a week, more like twice or 3 times. And it's not just the basic gyros. It's pasticcio. It's all of it. It's the lemon chicken soup with the rice. It's I just can't. It's the best food in the world, and of course, Galactopodico at the end for me is just the greatest thing,
So that is also one of my favorite desserts. I love anything custard, pudding, like that. So it is so good. And at the festivals, that is all homemade. And when I say homemade, I mean downstairs in the church kitchen. The church kitchen could be as big as my kitchen. Okay, could be this big. They're going to stuff 20 ladies in there. Of all ages. Usually they're on the older side because the older women, it's like a chain of command. You know what I mean? Because the older women don't let the younger women. And by the way, I'm considered a younger woman, so I like it. That's the good part about being Mediterranean, that age thing, because people generally, knock on wood, last long. So there's a wide range. And they'll push you out of the way because they literally just got off a donkey. They're in there. They're making They're making the phyllo by hand, like
That's
I
right.
took it from a box, you know.
That's right. Yeah, the cookies and
Oh,
everything, chicken and
every-
lemon and oil and with the
but the Italian-
seasonings.
but the Italian women are the same thing, right? The older women, they're in the basement, they're making a
Yeah, yeah.
or whatever.
Well, they're doing it more with like pasta and cheeses and things like that. But when I go to the Greek festival, my wife and I go in the one in Merrick here in Long Island.
Yeah.
That's the one festival we never miss. I mean, they always have like a San Gennaro type Italian festival thing, which is great. You walk around with sausage and peppers and a zeppoli.
Right.
But when we go to the Greek one, my wife and I make sure we get there like late morning, and we don't leave till sunset, because it's not only the rides, it's jewelry, it's people, musicians, all, and it's like you said, it's a million these old women in the basement or their houses. They bring all this food that they just made, and it's all these different families that welcome you. You know, like it's not a street fair where you just walk right in. The tents are set up like the day before, and they're raffling off like a car, and the priest is there, and the Orthodox Greek guys are all walking around. But you know, we're not even a member of the parish, yet they see us every year and they welcome us over. Come on, I made special baklava with no walnuts for you, because this lady remembered that I was allergic to walnuts. You allergic to walnuts? Yeah, I made a special baklava, no walnuts in this one. It's just the most amazing, loving feeling, and that is what humanity should be. That is a microcosm of what we should all be, and that's what I try to do. I try to bring a love to whatever I'm doing, whether it's stand up or teaching people. I raise butterflies, so I teach people how to raise butterflies, and
Oh my God.
whatever I'm doing, I try to bring that, because that's the way I was raised. My mother was 4'11", little Italian woman, and you know, if the newspaper boy came to my house in the winter and it was cold and he didn't have a hat on, he left my house with wearing a hat. You know what I mean? My mother would do that. She was making meatballs, and someone came to the house who was hungry. They'd get 10 meatballs to go home with. And my father was the same way. He was a Little League president, Little League coach, and he had a soft spot for the kids who couldn't perform well on the Little League field. So he took them in. And so my brother and I were both raised that way, and it works. It works because if you help humanity out and you do for someone else, you're not only doing that to give yourself a good feeling or to help that person, you're doing it for God. And in particular, I follow the teachings of Christ. I mean, I'm not a religious guy. I don't go to church all the time. I don't agree with all that's happening in Catholicism and Roman Catholicism. And I read the Torah and the Quran. I read all of it. But for me, the teachings of Christ and the fact that he was God's son and he was here is what helps me get through life. And it's been a blessing to me. And look where I am. I mean, yesterday I did a podcast, and someone asked me, the host asked me, he said, your goals and dreams that you had in life when you were young, whether it was show business or just in life, have you gotten more than halfway to your goals? And I said, I'm way past my goals. You know, God has given me more than I ever could have dreamed of, which makes me think to myself, have I run out of dreams? Because I've attained everything that I wanted. I mean, materially, I wanted a pool, a boat, and a fireplace in my house. So I had those things. I had the boat, got rid of that. I got the pool, I got a fireplace. Other than that, you know, I'm married with my wife 40 years. We're married 33. I'm doing stand-up for 40 years.
Wow.
I was able to make people laugh, and I'm involved in 32 different charities, so I can help people that way. My kids are healthy, knock on wood, and I'm healthy, basically, knock on wood, and that's it. You know, I get up and I feed the birds, and I look at them out my kitchen window. That's my Netflix. When we're washing the dishes, and you can watch the birds and raise some butterflies. And just now, before I started talking to you, I mowed my lawn and I put all my seeds in. So I was planting seeds, and when we're done, I'm going to go plant some more seeds. So that's me in a nutshell, my friend.
The boy from Brooklyn is so close to nature. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to get into how you got into stand up in a second, but you're a very, first of all, whatever your parents did, they did well.
Thank you.
They did phenomenal. And it's so nice because at the end of the day, now you know a lot of very wealthy people, a lot of very famous people. I mean, you've seen it all.
Yeah.
And you know that there are some, and doesn't necessarily have to be show business too, of course, there's business people and whatnot, that are miserable. They're miserable, and it doesn't matter how much. And at some point, you have to really take stock of yourself and be like, is this BMW, this third BMW, this third convertible BMW, is that really making me happy? I mean, at some point, like, when is it enough? I know it sounds very Gordon Gekko, Wall Street One,
Right.
But you know what I'm saying? I love nice things like the next person. I went from being an accountant to going into stand-up comedy, and the one thing that has not changed is my taste. So it didn't adjust to the income.
Right.
But it did teach me an appreciation for, and again, just sometimes it's just the simple things. And I don't know, because as time goes on, people forget, but I hope that if anything is going to teach us, well, one of the things that'll teach us during this quarantine, Corona, the whole thing, is to enjoy those simple things. The cup of coffee with a friend. I mean, we become so disconnected because of technology. And yes, it's great because technology is allowing us to do that. That's fantastic. But not when you go to a restaurant, you sit down and you see the two people next to each other and they're both on their phones. I'm like, what kind of conversation are these two now? That whole thing. Your kids are a little bit older, but I see my nieces and nephews, and they're all so the brains are getting rewired or have been rewired. So that's great that you've
Well,
had
it all starts with like a basic foundation. It's got to be built on rock, not sand. My daughter's here right now. She's in my backyard with her little chihuahuas, sitting with my wife and our dog, and they're social distance, and they're in the yard. We just had lunch, and it's about human connection. It's easier to get a camel through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into the kingdom of heaven. Now, it's not saying that you can't have nice things. I drive a really nice car. I got a nice house, but there's got to be a limit. You can't be a slave to that. There's some people that are insatiable, that once they get here, they want more, and they die. They die reaching. I'm done reaching. I mean, I get to a point where my bills are paid. I think I'm okay. I'm not a rich man by any stretch of the imagination, but you get to a point where you're satisfied and you give it over to God and say, God, I'm going to do what I think you want me to do here. I'm going to say my prayers, but you give me what you think I need, as long as I don't die a painful death, because we're all here for a half hour. It's what's beyond this. My mother was killed in a car crash in 1986. My parents were coming back from seeing me in Atlantic City at the Tropicana. And they were killed. My mom was killed in a car crash. She died the next day. It was actually my birthday in 1986. And it was a very traumatic thing. And out of that fire came a lot of blessing. I'll tell you more about that if you want to know later on. But what I learned was, and one of my biggest lessons that I live by, is that, life is like for all of us, all the souls, just think of a straight line, just a line, like this pen here. And we are a dot. You and me and everybody else that's alive on the planet right now are one space on that line. We're one dot, because you can count us. We're a finite amount. And as you snap your fingers, 20,000 just went in, 20,000 just left the planet. 20,000 just came in, 20,000 just left. Now, if you look on this side of the line, those are all the souls that have been here and gone. If you look on this side of the dot, this side of the dot are all the souls that haven't been there yet. Those two amounts are infinite. Right now, you can count us. And in a matter of a half hour, whether you're 9 or 90, we're going to be part of either this side or this side. So we're a minority just being alive. The majority has been here and gone and hasn't been here yet. So when you think of it that way, this little window of opportunity that we get to live here is there's a chance for us to really do what we think we should do, and we all know in our heart we should do while we're here. And it serves us exponentially, not only in our existence here, but where we go beyond. Now, there's a lot of people that don't believe that we go anywhere beyond. There's a lot of people that don't believe in God. There's a lot of people that have no foundation. I mean, There's people that celebrate Christmas that don't even believe in that Christ was here. I mean, it's really hypocritical when you look deep into what we are, where our minds and our hearts are as compared to where they should be. Because basic humanity is mesmerized by just keys being dangled in front of them. There's a lot of diversion. So everybody gets caught in whatever their diversion is, and they follow that way because they think they should, because they're chasing that carrot on a stick, you know, and they spend their whole lives and waste so much time doing that before they find the inner, where they should be, the heart soul connection to whatever is beyond. And I know there is, because not only do I live it and I try to make my life an example of it, but I've pretty much felt it and seen it. And that's who I try to be. And I try to bring that to my stand-up also. You know, being a good stand-up is when you got to be humble. You've got to be vulnerable. You've got to, there's nothing you shouldn't be able to talk about. And you're naked on stage. I mean, I share whatever that audience wants. And if something happened to me that day that was embarrassing, I'm going to the stage with it. Because chances are, because I'm not unique in that way, chances are that somebody else in that audience witnessed or lived through something similar to what I lived through, you know. And that's why I can make a connection. I can make a really good connection with a club audience as well as a TV studio audience, you know, because we're all here, we're all in the same boat.
Right, which is completely different. First of all, I'm assuming motivational speaking is part of your resume, because
No.
it needs to be.
Thank you.
And maybe because club work is going to be a little less, at least going forward for a little while, this is something that you should do, because you.
Well, we'll talk after the show. I might need a manager.
I'm there. I mean, I'm business sense I've got. I might not have the best jokes, but business sense I have. So we should definitely talk about that. But you said so many things that hit home for me. So I'm Greek Orthodox, and I do go to church, but we do live in 2020. I get it. There's some things that I'm not quite sure still jive now that did then, but I'm very respectful. But anyway, more than that, more than the organized religion part of it is, I agree with you. I believe in God, and if you don't, that's fine. I don't judge. That's fine. I would hope you believe in something. I always say this, you know what I mean? I don't care what it is, but just, we need to, it's not just, we're just here and then we're leaving. And then it's like, no, there's no way.
It's impossible. I mean, we can't even explain the sun. We can't explain lightning bugs. There's things we can't explain, and nothing is a coincidence. It's just, they could say, oh, it's evolution, it's this and that, and the Big Bang Theory and all these planets. Well, how come all these planets are perfectly round? How did that happen? Just from spinning day,
night, water that we need. I mean,
where did the thing come from that exploded to make all the planets? I mean, somebody had to make that. And I mean, the planet Earth is on an axis. And if we go, an inch this way or an inch that way, we're either on fire or we're frozen. I mean, something's keeping it beside, then people will say, oh, it's a gravitational pull. And I mean, they'll science the hell out of it. But when you really, really sit down and you read, again, the Torah, you read the Genesis, you read the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Quran, there are elements in all of it that tell you that there's so much more than this to bring. Now, what I do is I don't really incorporate this so much in my act. It's salt and peppered with it, because I also talk about the human condition. I do fart jokes. I do small penis jokes. I do whatever I witness in my daily life, because that's what people can recognize and relate to. And I'm a neighborhood guy. You know what I mean? I'm just a neighborhood guy. All my neighborhood. I'm friends with my pizza guy, my ice cream guy, my tailor, my dry cleaner. Like, I'm a neighbor. Like, I like nothing better than to have some time off. And I like driving around, going all to going to the cleaners. I'm going to the bank. I'm having lunch with Louis. after lunch with Louie, we're going to take a ride down by the thing. We're going to cast a line, do a little fishing off the dock, come home. I mean, I'm a simple guy, local guy, you know, and I find it's fodder for a lot of stand-up comedy when you're a local guy, because you're dealing with local people on that level. So, and then I get to go to a local club and talk about it.
Yeah. But you obviously have very good gut instincts as well, which again, for those that don't know, to do TV warm up is very difficult. It's a completely different animal. It's in a completely, the environment is different, the time of day, all the people that come in from wherever. Sometimes it's people that, you know, obviously want to see whoever the star is. Sometimes it's the hotel gave them free tickets and they don't know what they're going to see. I mean, it's just so many things as opposed to a club that has a little bit more unity because people bought a ticket to go see Joey and whoever's warming up for you, and just different. Plus with TV, there's a lot of start and stop. If it's not live to tape, if it's not live. So there's so many elements to it. And you have to be pretty clean because it's generally pretty clean. It is such a talent to be able to do that, and you really need to have that gut. Like, this needs to work in here.
That's right.
You need to know how far you can go, how much you can pull back. You just looked in that person's eyes. Let me go pay attention to that person.
Well, you're constantly in a fight or flight. You're constantly in a fight or flight mode.
It's not to be, it's to be commended. It's not, you make it look easy.
Thank you.
Because people that are good at what they do make everything look easy. Same thing with the talk show host. You know, I mean, listen, we can do it until you do it. And I've been on live TV. Not so easy. It's supposed to go seamless. That was the point.
Yeah, and with the warm up thing, you know, when you're warming up a TV show as opposed to stand up, when I do stand up in a club, it's my show. I can say what I want, doing it what I want. You know, it's me. I could, you know, use language if I'd like. But when you're warming up a TV show, you're representative of the host. You know, and it's rule number one is protect that host, whether it's Rosie, Martha Stewart, Rachel Ray, you know, Meredith Vieira when I was doing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, when I was doing AGT at Radio City, it was those hosts, you know, it was Howard and Heidi Klum and Howie and, you know, all them. And you represent the show, but when you're doing stand-up, it's you. And then, you know, when you do warm-up too, I'm doing it, this is going to be 27 years. And, you know, I get up at 5:30 in the morning. I get on the train. I'm in the city by 7:30 in the morning. I'm at my first production meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning. And then for Rachel, we do 3 shows a day normally. So we do an 11 o'clock, like a 1:30, 2 o'clock, and then we do like a 4 o'clock, 4:30 show. And it's, you know, 150 people in and out, each 3 different audiences. And you represent not only the host, but everybody who's working on that show, all the producers, all the segments. It's 7 segments a show. We're doing 21 segments of television a day. And then you don't leave till 6:30, and then you get up and do the same thing next day. It's a lot of work. I always tell people if I ever hit the lottery, that the first thing I would leave would be the warm-up thing because it's a lot. It's very taxing. However, it kept me in decent shape up until now, and you know, because it's a lot of loud applause, medium applause, you got these signals, and you got to welcome these people, like you said, from all over the country, other countries. You welcome them into Rachel Ray's living room. It's not my house. I'm the butler. I'm the rodeo clown. I represent the show, so I want to represent the show the best way I know how. Hi, guys. I welcome them. Thanks for coming to the show. Here's our signals. There's a good chance you're going to be leaving here carrying a little bit more than you had when you came in today. You might get a book. You might get a kitchen utensil, something like that. But it's very, very positive, very upbeat. And when you got a great host like Rachel, who's very generous and happy and likes to cook, because cooking is love, you know. So when we're cooking on the show, sometimes we feed the audience, sometimes we don't. It's just we try to make it a love fest. You know, when Rosie first hired me to do her show, I said, I was leaving Letterman. I was actually leaving my Letterman spot, leaving the Ed Sullivan Theater. I just did Letterman, and my manager, Jeff Sussman's phone rang, and it was Rosie and Daniel Kellison. And she said to me, Joey, I had 4 other people trying to do it. They didn't do it. And I want you to bring a high energy love to this thing, like a comedy club. I said, Rosie, what kind of a show is it going to be? Is it going to be, like Sally, Jesse, Raphael, or Geraldo at that time throwing chairs at each other, or is it going to be upbeat? She said it's going to be Mike Douglas, Merv Griffin, but we're going to add a comedy element. We're going to shoot koosh balls. We're going to bring Broadway on the show. And, Rosie's show was groundbreaking in that no other show gave their audience snacks under the seat, milk. We were the first ones to give things away. Rosie invented herself a curtain that went around the whole studio, 8G up in the 8th floor of 30 Rock, where we pulled this curtain. We were able to bring the cast of Titanic in that small studio and do this Broadway production. Rosie invented the RoboCam, where she said, why can't we put a track on the ceiling of the studio and run that camera from me all the way up the studio from the 8th floor to the 9th floor. She invented that. She invented so much. And at that time, we were beating Oprah. At the time, we were doing 7s in the ratings, which is unheard of now. If you get a 2.4, 2.5, you're renewed and then some. But at that point, if you were doing 5s and 6s, it was considered great. Oprah was doing 7s. And we were doing 7s and beating Oprah in a lot of markets. And Rosie also taught me about generosity. I know her from the clubs, Ellen. I used to drive her to the gigs. But I'm going to tell you a story right now that's going to blow your mind. And it's probably going to sit with you for the rest of your life. And it's a beautiful story. I get off the train. I go to 30 Rock. I get off the 1. I walk up 50th Street. I get to 30 Rock. And I'm there early. And I'm there around 7:30 in the morning this particular day. And I see Rosie in the hallway. It's just her and I. And she's a little disheveled. So I said to her, because I know her a while, I go, hey, Big Shot, what were you out with your friends at Joe Allen's your Broadway friends at Joe Allen's last night? You look shangad, as the Italians would say. You look shangad. And she looked at me and she said, no, I couldn't sleep last night, so I went to Sloan and wrote checks. Think about that.
Wow.
I couldn't sleep last night, so I went over to Sloan Kettering and I wrote checks. Mm-hmm. You found people in the waiting rooms. She went in with a hat, unassuming, with a hood on. Nobody knew who she was with no makeup on. She wasn't, the Queen of Nice, Rosie O'Donnell. She was just unassuming. And she would go in and write checks for big money, like thousands of dollars. And she also helped. She would ask me often, Joey, are there any comedians that need help? And I know on at least 2 occasions where there were comedians whose wives were, had breast cancer, and Rosie wrote checks. And I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that that's what she couldn't sleep, so she went to Sloan to write checks. And she was constantly doing stuff like that, all about Make-A-Wish and a million different charities. As a matter of fact, throughout this thing, I went downstairs and looked through a lot of my old bins and old letters from the Rosie show, people that wrote me letters, and I found stuff that was just remarkable as far as the generosity. And I was able to, I had that in my life to a certain extent anyway, doing benefit shows or whatever. But Rosie taught me how to go the extra mile, to really, really embed yourself in a situation where you have no other choice but to care for that other human being, as much as you can. We can't do it. We can't go all in all the time, because you do have other obligations with family and friends and things like that. But, to get to that other level where you can care and put your money where your mouth is. And it goes back again to a biblical story where, Christ raised Lazarus from the dead. But their first meeting was when he was with his disciples and met him. And Lazarus was rich. He had a vineyard. He had Martha there, and Mary was there, but not different Mary. And he said, I want to join you. Now Lazarus said, I want to follow you. He said, well, then give up everything you got. He said, how am I going to? I can't do that. Look at all I have. I already give 10%. So then Christ said, I know a widow woman who gave 2 pennies. So he said, well, what is that? He said, it was all she had. It was all she had. So when I see celebrities that are given this and that and blah, 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 give, everybody's afraid of losing what they're going to. If you're okay, like I have faith that I could lose almost everything that I got, and I'm going to be okay. So I don't put too much value on that. Of course, I want my bills paid. I want my family to live comfortably, you know. By the way, that's Mr. Softy you're hearing right now in the background going by my house.
Oh, I'm surprised I didn't recognize. I was weaned on Mr. Softy.
Yeah, he's right in front of my house right now. If you hear that, I don't know if you can hear that music. He's right in front of my house, but I don't know who he's going to sell cones to now with this all going on. I mean, you do it with a mask. So
Yeah.
anyway, I forgot what we were talking about.
That's good. That's a great way to look at things. Maybe after this, you could talk to my husband, because he doesn't think that we would survive. But you know what? And I'm not looking to slam him, but I do, to make it personal, sometimes when he goes off the rails about, and I'm like, have some faith, you know? And I've been, look, this whole thing has been, if this doesn't also make you, introspective and reflective,
Right.
you're an adult. I'm not talking about the teenagers. Because at some point, when we go back, they'll forget this. But if this doesn't make you be grateful, I wake up in the morning and I'm like, okay, is anybody that on the respirator that we know? I mean, and there are people, you know what I mean? Just like, let's just look at do I have it? No. Okay. All right. We're good. Then that's it. And then we can, move forward. I mean, of course we're comedians. We want to make jokes. I, post this and that and the eating and all that stuff that's going on.
Right.
But in reality, it's like that's exactly what it is. It's like, you have to just look and just be grateful.
I posted that the other day. I wrote on Facebook, I wrote great news, exclamation point. If you're able to read this, you're alive. Hashtag don't lose hope. Hashtag don't lose faith.
Yeah.
Which we all do. And you know what? Like what you're saying, we know people that lose their faith easily. I lose my faith also. But all you can do is pray for God to come in their lives, whether it's a daughter, a son, a wife, a friend, whoever it is, people you don't know. All you can do is pray. And if he wants them to be part of this group, many are called, few are chosen. You know what I mean? And then there's people that aren't even called, and they're here. And that's not all on us completely. We can do what we can to enlighten people as much as we can, but that's on him. I just pray, use me if you want. Use me in any way you can to try to get to those people, to get to another level. And it really is peaceful. When you really give over and you're able to really do that, I mean, really do it, not just say it, but really do it, it's such a peace that comes over you. Like I was living life before, now I want to say a quarantine life. I was living life like this before this thing even happened. Because any day could be a bullet, a bus, cancer, heart attack, anything, any day. So you got to be ready for it. So you got to give over at some point. Because I can't worry about a bullet, a bus, a heart attack. I can't worry about it all the time.
Do you feel that it was a big turning point, though, was really because of what happened with your mom? Had that not had happened?
No. This happened to me when I was 7. When I was 7 years old, I was in a catechism class at St. Patrick's Church in Bayshore. And every Saturday, I think a Saturday morning or Sunday morning, I'd get on a bus, and I was one of like three kids. And the church was actually like 5-7 miles from my house. So I had to get on this bus on the weekend in the morning, and I didn't know the other kids, like nobody from my real neighborhood. My brother wasn't even on it. It was like me by myself. And for as far back as I remember, I went to a catechism class, right, near the church. And then I would, we'd have a time when we would pray in the church with, priests and nuns and stuff like that. But as I was waiting for my ride, whether it was the bus or my father to pick me up, I would be outside this church on a beautiful sunny, it would be like 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. And the best memory I have is just a beautiful sunny morning. It was like late spring, summer, and there were birds chirping. It was a really beautiful, it was beautiful. There were plants and flowers and trees and this gorgeous church. And I can't pinpoint it, Ellen, but for the best that I can do is that was a point where something kind of got in me, and I can't explain it. But from that point on, I was like, if I think and live my life this way, that there's going to be a peacefulness that comes with that. Now, I leave that peacefulness a lot in the world of stand-up and showbiz and all of that. But when I think back and I can connect my heart to that place, and in my real world now where I have it, whether I go in my backyard or I go to the beach or I'm driving at a certain angle and the sun's at a certain angle, that piece of my life comes back to me, and it's such a peaceful way. And only now am I finding ways to recreate it or get back to that point. Now, my Uncle Fred, my father's brother, was going to become a priest. So he would also take us to these beautiful churches that were all over Brooklyn and Queens. And my aunts and my uncles we'd go to St. Francis up in Williamsburg, where my parents were married. And that was a big thing to me also. But I also learned to take the churchness out of it and apply it to nature and sunshine coming at you, looking at a flower, looking at a bird, taking a moment, a breeze coming through, looking at the moon at a certain angle. You know what is holy to me sometimes, actually a lot, is I count my blessings every day, especially my wife. My wife's a saint, and she is me. We're as one. And I'll sit on the couch and I'll watch her cook, and I got a view of her cooking. And I've taken many pictures and video of her just cooking. And that's a holy thing to me. It's holy to me. Like, I have this great picture of my wife making cookies with my kids when they were younger. It's a sacred, holy thing that I apply to whatever came into my soul when I was a kid and has gone till now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I completely listen. We could make this 3 hours long. Okay, like yeah.
Have we even talked about comedy yet?
No, we haven't. I mean, I died asking about Rosie O'Donnell, but before we get to that, first of all, I cannot forget. You have to, if you have not gone, you need to go to the Holy Land. Have you done a pilgrimage there?
Italy, of course, we've been there. No, we haven't gone yet. That's one of my dreams to go to Jerusalem.
You have to go. Last year, my church, the Greek Orthodox churches started to put these packages together. So I went actually with my aunt, who's my godmother, and we went with some people from our church and the church on the Upper West Side, and we went to Jerusalem. And we went to where Jesus walked on water. We went to where he said the Lord's Prayer. We obviously went to where he was to Bethlehem. We went to
Sermon on the Mount, the Beatitudes, all of it.
Everything. Mary told Elizabeth she was pregnant. I mean, will love this. And as far as Lazarus goes, we went into the tomb. I've actually posted it on. We went down into the tomb. I'll send it to you via.
Can you send that to me?
A quick thing. I'll send it to you in the messenger. But it's incredible. So you're very knowledgeable. You read this. You got to do it. You got to put that has to be on your to-do list.
I would love that. I would really love that.
And you got to also go with somebody that can help and navigate. But it was incredible. This will change your life yet again. And I also teach Sunday school. So again, okay. I'm with you. And we don't have any children. My husband and I, we have nieces and nephews. I'm a godmother. I take it very seriously.
Yeah.
And
Maybe I'll grab Danny Cohen and take him with me over there.
Yeah, he'd be a great person too. And I agree. Like we grew up at around the same time. There was such simple things like making the cookies with your grandmother, just like sitting down and eating a meal. That sounds so silly, but it's not, right? Because everybody's so get up and go. Everything is so competitive. Everything is,
right.
Even I feel sorry in some ways for these kids, like in high school. They have to be the captain of the soccer team. They have to do community service. They have to be a Girl Scout or a Boy Scout. They have to this. They have to that. It's like, how about one thing? How about one thing they choose, and then the rest?
We never did that with my kids. We never forced them into doing any sport.
Crazy.
We never forced them into doing anything they didn't want to do.
Right.
And Luckily because I had the jobs that I had, my wife was able to stay with them a lot and raise them. And we cherish, like for Mother's Day, my son's in Brooklyn. He came out and we social distance in the backyard. We had like a barbecue, but we still cherish the moments with each other, literally just hanging out. We sit in chairs with a beverage or something to eat, and we talk about everything. And there's no phones, there's no games, there's
My
nothing.
girlfriend and I'm actually trying to write a one-woman show about my great-grandmother who I knew. And so I was talking to one of my best friends that I grew up with. She's like family.
Right.
And I was trying to really kind of do my research, and she knew her. We were talking about it, and we were talking about how when we were kids, because I grew up in the city, but then when we were, and actually her family moved as well as my family together when we moved up to the suburbs. And I remember we were talking about how on Sunday nights or Saturday nights, our parents, there was about 5 families. And all the Greeks moved up to Rockland. All the Greek. It was like a Greek.
From Manhattan?
From Manhattan. From Manhattan.
Okay. Right.
And
but that's another level. Manhattan is different than Queens and the Bronx and Brooklyn. That's a whole nother thing.
All right, all the way uptown. We had our own thing going on.
Right.
And, excuse me. And they go to each other's house, and they'd be on the deck. They'd be smoking, have little Luzo, little this, little that, and they would just laugh. They would exactly, and they would just talk and laugh. And it was just a great way to, other than the smoking, it was a great way to sort of grow up. And like you said, no phone, no this, nobody had to get up and do that. And again, it's just kind of coming back to just, the simplicity of it all. But that is great that you have remained grounded. You have raised your kids now to remain that way as well. And they'll bring that to their families. I don't know if they have. Are you not a grandparent, are you?
Oh, no. My daughter's supposed to get married in September, and we'll see what happens. I don't know,
Right. So let's just get back to working for Rosie and for Rachel, and because I have to tell you, I've had R.C. Smith, Vince August, and Mike Burton on my show, and when we started to talk about warm up, the conversation went to you. And because they of course, we all love you, but of course they love you. I mean, RC must have talked about you for 20 minutes, but you were the one that taught him. You are the teacher, right? There's no class, and it really is like a fly by the seat of your pants.
Right.
So, but that's nice to know, about Rosie, and I do want to pay her a big compliment. Her show that came on really opened up a lot for Broadway and gave it like the advertisement that it needed for other people other than us that live in New York. And it saddens me because just yesterday, and I posted it, was they were talking about, so we're May, 13th now. So they said about Broadway not coming back till after Labor Day, which we don't even know if that's really going to be the case. And it's like, it's so heartbreaking for, for all of us. And what's your advice for especially for us, for entertainers in particular, right? I mean, because we are our own business. It's called show. I remember Joe Starr saying to me, it's called show business.
Yeah,
and the business part, as I've gotten to know, is I usually say 90% of it, and the 10% is the show.
Right.
I would say like the stage part is the easy part. This is like the rest of it. So like, what advice would you give?
Well, what I've done is in the past couple of months, I did two live from my living room, Joey Cola's Comedy Club, live from my living room, and my wife actually produced it for me. She put the laugh track in, she set everything up. I have show lights that I put up in my living room, and I put sound in because I really wanted it to be exactly what I would do in a club. I didn't want to talk about this plague at all. I don't want to talk about it. I hate it so much that I don't even want it to enter in. So I just did like 10 minutes of my act on the first one, and then I did a small Q&A because it was my first Facebook Live. I didn't even know what I was doing. And then the second one, I did about 20 minutes, and I did a longer Q&A. And between the two of them, I got 25,000 views.
Wow.
So, and I did it for free. I didn't want to, I'm okay. So I didn't want to seem like I was going to get paid for anything. I mean, there's a lot of comics that aren't as blessed as I am to do warm up or do these other shows. So they need some help. And at that point, at this point, I mean, I want to, I want to give as much as I can to help other people and charities and things like that. If I ever get to the point where I need to charge for it, then I'll have to do that. But luckily, knock on wood, I'm not there right now. So I did those two shows, which is going to suffice. That's a good amount of material, and it'll just keep getting more views. And then I did the other day, I did PB&J with Joey K, showing people how to do the peanut butter and jelly sandwich with an old-fashioned chocolate egg cream. And I'll do that every Monday at 12:30, just to show my face and make a connection. But we're still in a wait and see. I really believe we're in a wait and see right now. The world is working feverishly to get a vaccine. I don't know how soon it's going to be, but we have to wait and see what happens as far as being an entertainer. And if nothing happens and, money becomes a thing, we're going to have to do something else. I mean, I'll be a landscaper. I'll work at an essential business. I'll call a friend who's got a restaurant and say, listen, can I cook for you? I mean, I'm not beyond doing any kind of work. I mean, I was a foreman on a loading dock factory. I was working delis. I'm hearing my voice. Well, a little bit. Oh, I'm getting too close to it, I think. Anyway, yeah. I'm not beyond toiling in whatever grime it's going to take for me to make a living. I mean, life's been good to me. I'll be able to, collect a pension or whatever in a few years. But whatever I have to do to survive, I'll do it. I have no pride that I have to not do certain things. I mean, if it involves stand-up, that would be great because I'd like to keep doing stand-up to a certain level. But if I can't do stand-up, I'll do whatever it takes to just, take care of my family.
I think that's very healthy that you, just in case, you've kind of resolved yourself to that. It pains me for some of our fellow comics and actors and singers that, either they can't, I mean, everybody's got their own process. They can't quite get to that. I might have to do something else. I'm right. In a very unique situation. Again, this is my second career. Right. I really honestly thought that my age was going to not get me work. I didn't know it was going to be a pandemic.
No, you're fine. You're youthful.
Right. Thank you. It's the lighting. But I was a CPA and like, as we know, taxes and financial accounting will never go away. Right. So death and taxes. So, those are the two mainstays. So I can, and by the way, not so easy, of course, because I've been out of it now for like 12 years, but I do have that. I have an MBA. I mean, I can get myself, I won't get myself to the level that I was when I left, obviously. But like you said, you do what you got to do.
You have something else to do. And the thing is that there's people that have a lot more money invested in this thing that have to get these shows up and going. Broadway, television studios, it's CBS, it's NBC, it's ABC. I mean, these are multi-billion-dollar companies that have to figure out what to do. Well, I'm going to let them do it. That's not my I don't have my dog in the fight is way back here compared to what what they have invested.
A lot of jobs. And I watch, I know her, I love her. I watch Kelly and Ryan every morning before I'm going to work out. And, they're just, they're putting shows on, and they're doing it in Zoom. But I mean, it's a different energy because it's not, their whole show is based on live. It's called live. It's
Yeah,
been
Rachel's
live.
doing the same thing. Every Monday and Friday, Rachel and her husband are doing the same thing. And then they rerun stuff Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So, I
I know.
mean, we're going to wait and
It
see.
sounds-
We're going to see what happens. I really have hope and faith that things are going to be okay. Things are going to be okay.
I was
They
going
may
to.
well be different, but they'll be okay.
I wanted to ask you too, since we're talking about faith and all. I said this from the very beginning that I felt like this. Yes, I realized the source. Of course, there's controversy about where it came from. Personally, I think it came from a lab in Wuhan, and it's either two things. Either it was done on purpose, which is not out of the box, okay?
Right.
We're talking about evil people because we won't do it doesn't mean somebody else won't. I mean,
Right.
we've been on this planet long enough to see some of the most horrific things. I lived through 9/11. I mean,
Yep.
nothing.
Right. Yep. Yep.
There's evil, unfortunately.
Yes.
So either that or it was some experiment gone awry. Something let something out and something happened. So those are the two things. And it didn't come from Cleveland. It came from Wuhan. So that's where I stand on this. But what I was going to say,
from eating bat either. It didn't. I don't think that had anything to do with it.
Oh no bat with a side of fries. No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's got a bigger meaning than this. I've been saying God looked down and he goes, look at this. I didn't create all this. That's it. Everybody, time out. Go to your room. Because that's what's happened. We've all went to our rooms. We're all getting a timeout. Like, how weird is this?
Well,
so
that's
I look at it like it's bigger than us. We're trying to rationalize it. I get it, of course. The science behind it, I get it. I'm not arguing. But it's bigger than us.
Well, to that note, that's kind of what makes me laugh because people in general, there's only like 3 or 4% of the planet that can talk about, God or Christ the way you and I are talking about it right now. Most people, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to believe. They're afraid. And what they're mostly afraid of is that something like this, there could be something bigger than we are as humans on the planet. And there is. There was many, many years humans didn't exist, and there's going to be many millions of years where humans have gone after us. So it's what I talked to you before was a microcosm of us being alive with the souls that have been here and gone. Now that's to another level of humans only being here for a little while. So this is scary to people who can't fathom that there's something much bigger than us running the show, So conveniently, it's good to say, well, if you think of God as a deity looking down, going, you guys are going to learn this, and I'm going to give you something that you can. Conveniently, that makes sense if you're writing it in a story form or a movie form or something like that. But when you think about the scheme of things, and I'm talking about combining nature with an enlightenment of spirituality that exists within the realm of this ozone, where souls thrive, whether dead or alive. Because my belief is that when you're gone, your soul goes to a place where there's no time, there's no people, it's all a conscious existence that you can go in the past and the future, here and there. I could be with Elvis or Stevie Ray Vaughan, or I could be embedded in somebody else's soul that is here alive. There's no parameters at all.
We're all the same. We're all the same.
It's omnipresent. And it exists here and it's now. Right? It exists here and it's now. What the Rastafarians call Iri. It's so it's here and now. So if you want to put a stamp on this and try to put it into a category, you could use that analogy. However, things like this have been here from the beginning of time, and they'll keep showing up, and they'll keep metamorphosis. Changing, morphing into other things that humans have a problem understanding. Now, once you give over to God and say, this could be, all right, it's a plague now that's killing many, many people, and we can't put our finger on this thing because it's fever, it's not. It's a back pain, it's your lungs. This guy was healthy and he died. This is an old person that should have died and they didn't. It's like the invisible man punching you. However, it also comes down to that this could be a hangnail. This could be something that's menial. This could be your appendix dropping out. Whatever the event is, how it appeals or affects the human body, and when I say the human body, individual and all of humans, it still has to be something in your mind that's dealt with on a bigger level and where you fit in. How am I going to react to it? And I'm going to know that I did all I could while I was here. I think I was true to my faith as much as I was here. I had a little bit of fun and enjoyed this existence. And now it may be time to move on. Again, getting back to whether it's a bullet, a bus, or cancer, whatever, or this thing. However, and I think that humanity will be changed, hopefully, for the much better after this. Greed will still exist, and people will still try to take advantage of the situation and other people. You can't wipe out greed till you wipe out Satan and the devil himself. He was at the right hand of God. He was the angel that was right here, so he knows all the tricks. But until you wipe him out, then it still exists. And that'll come at another time. That will happen at another time. But the way I'm going to do it is have faith in God first. Take great care to be with my family, my wife and I. I know there's a lot of domestic stuff going on. I'm enjoying being with my wife and my kids, and my dog is loving being with us, and I'm getting the landscape and being with the plants. And it's just, as soon as we come down in silence and we just sit in silence and just simple. Jim Brewer and I were on the phone for like 2 hours about 2 weeks ago, just talking about the simple. Like, I could sit in a chair in my backyard and not do anything. Just look at the way the sun is setting from 4:10 to 4:20 to 4:45, and I watch birds, and I watch different kinds of birds and their noises and flowers and the way they're blooming and the leaves of the plants. And it's just, it's like, the only way I could put it is that there's parts of Mexico that they eat these mushrooms, kind of like an LSD, and you're on a trip. Oaxaca, Mexico. I just saw a documentary where they pick these mushrooms, and everybody around Oaxaca, Mexico, families, the kids, they eat them like candy, and they all go on trips. Like throughout the day, they'll trip out, and and it's been generations, like 6 generations have been growing these mushrooms and eating them. And they dry them out and they just eat these mushrooms. This guy went there to do a documentary about it. I forget the guy's name. I watched it yesterday for like 20 minutes. And he went on a trip, and they filmed him. And what he kept saying was, look how vividly blue these flowers are. Look at that bird. Like, he really took the time, like this drug made him, like, everything enhanced exponentially enhanced to him. Whether it was a flower, a bird, a breeze. He sipped a cup of water like you're doing now, and the water tasted like he didn't even know he was sipping water. Like, he thought it was like the greatest drink he had ever had. And it takes, to some people, it takes these mushrooms or LSD or some kind of a drug, or, pot or whatever, to get to that level. If you can get to that level without any of that stuff, then you're truly enlightened on this planet and could move on to not only entertaining people, because it takes a lot in a human being to be able to make other people laugh. Your mind, your soul. I mean, we have to get to another level where we have to be educated and dance around what they're thinking and how to get into their brains to make somebody laugh. If you can get to that level without drinking or drugs or whatever it takes, then that's a special thing to be able to have. and live with.
You being in comedy for as long as you have, unfortunately, have seen, and I'll just talk about comics specifically, go down a very bad path because
Yes.
alcohol and drugs and
Yes.
was very, especially in the 80s and 90s, and
Yes.
not today, but it was more prevalent back then. Certainly the alcohol is still there. I mean, if
Yes.
I don't drink. I mean, I have my occasional glass of red wine, so it's no big deal for me. But if I had an issue, that's a struggle. That's a big struggle. And you see, and what you're talking about too is just, and again, you don't have to be a comic, but a lot of people do, and I'm not judging, but a lot of people do medicate themselves just to get through it, and whatever it is that their demons are, and whatever it is that they can't let go of. And when we were talking before, when you mentioned about we're talking about the pandemic and stuff like that, it's just, we're all like little control freaks in our own way. And when you have to like let go, like you can control something. What you put in your mouth, you control, right?
Yeah.
What you pick up to read, you control. What we eat, we control. What you want to work out, you control. But you can't. There's so many things you can't control. And for me, I know part of maturity, and I still struggle with it because I like to have things is what to let go of what I can't control. Yeah, and that's a very big thing. And when you can do that, you can have a much better peace of mind.
Yeah, and it's about gratitude also. I mean, my wife made me an egg sandwich with some cheese on it and toast this morning. Delicious. I can't even begin to tell you the joy that I got from eating an egg sandwich. Mm-hmm. When I take a bite of my favorite sushi, when it's my birthday and my wife makes homemade macaroni and meatballs. The other night, she made carbonara. She made it homemade, the pasta. The joy, I mean, a lot of it is food related to me because I'm addicted to food. However, the joy that I get is I can't even put words into it. Like I'm busy eating it at the time. And then there's the everyday stuff. Like my wife gets up to make me coffee every morning. It means so much to me that she gets up to take that time to put the coffee in the pot to make me coffee.
I love coffee. I love the coffee ritual. I actually get up. My husband will get up before me, and he'll be watching TV or whatever. And I make the coffee because I make it old school in an electric coffee pot because coffee's supposed to be hot. Okay,
that's right. It's a percolator.
It's supposed to boil around. That's how coffee's.
Right. That's what we got. Yeah.
So I make it, and it grounds you. It's a simple things, and that's what we need. We've made everything, the collective we, made everything so complicated. It doesn't have to be that.
And that's why comedy works too, when it's simple like that. Like my jokes, I'm not a brain surgeon. Believe me, I'm not. I'm not Rich Jenny or Gaffigan or Stephen Wright. I mean, I'm giving people plain comedy, on the surface type of stuff. But my style is that I do a setup and then punch, tag. I'll drain a premise as much as I can before I move on. And it's high energy because people pay to see energy. So it's very high energy in that way.
How do you sustain that? How do you sustain your energy like that? Because you are. I love you. Me too.
Chocolate. I want to be there in front of these people. Like, I can't wait to get on. Like I say to myself, almost every show, Ellen, since I started doing this, a little voice in my head, it kind of says to me, man, I can't wait to tell these people my story. I can't wait to tell these people my story. Like, whether it's on the way to the gig or 5 minutes before the gig or as I'm being introduced, man, I can't wait to tell them this story. And then once you have that attitude where, hey guys, I got to tell you something, then it flows. It flows for me at that point.
But you do a lot of things off the cuff, right? I mean, you're not. You do. Obviously, you write. What is your process? I mean, do you spend a few hours? Do you go into your office and be like, okay, I'm going to write today?
I always
comes
have,
to you. Is it?
I always have. For the past 40 years, I've had my 2 pens and a marker, and in my other back pocket for the past over 40 years has been my little pad. So I write everything down. I write everything down on my pad and pen, and then it goes to another page, and I put that into a notebook, and then I write it, and then I'll bring it with me to a gig, leave it in the car, submit it to memory, and then I'll give it 20 times out, whatever premise it is. And then I'll give it a working chance. And if I can't use it, I'll give it to another comic, or I'll have a writing session with a few comics of mine. Joe Starr is one of my best buddies, and him and I not only tell each other jokes, but we run premises by each other, and we try to figure out what works or not, And I kind of know what's going to work for my character, and most of my comedy stems from a little bit of anger. Most of good comedy comes from some kind of anger. It's how it gets filtered through this machine and spit out to see if people are going to like it or not.
Do you keep all your old notebooks? Do you have a lot of notes, or
yeah,
are you, okay.
yeah? I got most of them. Yeah.
Okay, so you must have like a room of
yeah, there is. I got everything in these plastic bins and stuff. I save everything, so I got a bunch of stuff. And
well, good thing you have a house and you don't live in a New York City apartment. I mean, that's great that you're finding all these things, and you're also still entertaining everybody, because I think that that's important. Have you ever thought about writing a book? Because you have so much, and you have so many like road stories, and you work with so many famous people that you're famous, but other people, George Carlin, really, and it would all be very good-hearted. Have you thought about that now, especially now that you have time?
I did think about it. The other day I told my wife I might sit down and start to write the book. Last time I saw Ray Romano, he was on the set of Kevin Can Wait, the show that I played the principal on. And Ray was there, and he said, "When are you going to write a book? You should write a book." Because I like 40 years. I mean, I did New York City in its heyday. I did the road. I did cruise ships. I had a nervous breakdown coming off a cruise ship. I was involved with drug dealers, and then I got so many stories. I mean, I could sit here for hours and just tell you. But yeah, maybe I'll write a book. And I also have a couple ideas for some other books that are not autobiographical too. So it's just about sitting down and writing.
You listen. If you're getting 25,000 hits on a Monday, okay, doing your, I mean, I think it would be so awesome. And like, I'm trying to say this the right way, but it's just like, you're not Ray Romano in the sense of, you say Ray Romano, like people know you. You're like that guy. You're that guy.
Thank you.
And they'll be like, "Oh, I know that guy." I think that like, I'm not telling you what the title of the book should be, but it's like that guy. You are, and you have so many great stories, and it would also be a good thing, because unfortunately there's a lot of stories about stand-up comedians that they talk about the darkness, and there's a lot of drugs involved, or who's been to rehab. And again, not judging, but with you, it's like you never went down that rabbit hole, and even if it was right here, and I think that's unique, and especially again in its heyday.
Yeah, I stayed, my wife and I stayed together the whole time. I met my wife before I was a stand-up comic, and she's everything. She's
where did you guys meet? What
we were actually we grew up 3 blocks from each other in Bayshore, Island. And when we were kids, my mother would put my brother and I in a carriage and walk to the South Shore Mall, and her mother would put her sister and her in a carriage, and they'd walk together. We were infants. Cut to 17 years later. She's 17 and I'm 19, and I was invited to a party next door to the house where she grew up, a graduation party, my brother's friend's graduation party, and she happened to be in the backyard, and I didn't know her, and she's beautiful. I mean, she looked, and at that point she looked like the girl from Ipanema, long black hair and a tan, and so I thought she was a foreign exchange student. So I walked up to her and I said, "Listen, the food ain't coming out at this party. It's going to be nothing but beer. Would you like to go to Burger King? Burger King. We have something in this country called Burger King." And she goes, "What are you talking like that for? I live right next door." So I'm like, "Oh, you live in that house?" I never knew who lived in that house. It was 3 blocks from my house. So from that point on, we became friends, and then we started dating, and then I was 19, she was 17. We've been together ever since.
Oh my God, that's so sweet. And then when did stand-up become a thing? What was like, who?
Well, I was taught entertaining, not by comics, but my Uncle Ralph. My Uncle Ralph played guitar at the family parties, and my mom and dad sang, and my Uncle Angelo would tell jokes, and my cousins would play guitar. So whenever we had a gathering for Thanksgiving or Easter or whatever it was, it would be a big family party with a lot of people playing instruments and microphones and stuff. So my Uncle Ralph would hand us a microphone at 4 years old. Joey, tell a joke. Joey, sing a song. To all my other cousins, sing a song. So I learned when I was 3, 4 years old how to entertain, and I saw that it got attention from all the adults there. So I would tell jokes and I would do funny things to get their attention. Then I used to hang around with a bunch of guys in high school that were really, really funny, and so that helped a lot. And then I started going to the East Side Comedy Club. Richie Minervini helped me out a lot. All the comedy clubs on Long Island, as well as going into the city and working Pips in Brooklyn with George Schultz and his sons, Marty and Seth. So I became a regular at the Pips in Brooklyn, all the comedy clubs on Long Island, East Side, and the Brokerage, and all of them. And I started doing the city clubs. I was doing Catch and the Improv and Dangerfields. I did 9 shows in one night at Dangerfields. I went there at 7:30 at night, left 7:30 in the morning. We did prom shows. And but at one point, I would bring my car because I was from Long Island and nobody else drove in the city. I'd bring my car to stand up New York and park it outside, and I'd leave the keys in there for like Ray Romano, Mario Cantone, Eddie Brill, and like all the comics that were working at that point. I would work with Mark Maron and Leary and like all of them. And whoever needed my car would take my car from club to club, and I'd say, as long as my car is in front of Catch by 2:00 in the morning. And I did that a couple of times, but then my car was a little bit beat up, so I didn't do it too much after that. But when being a Long Island comic, if you were booked in New Jersey, you had to go to the Improv in New York to pick up the New York comics, go do the gig in New Jersey, drop the New York comics back over the Improv, and then I'd go back to Long Island. So I realized that I had to do the road. I had to do Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Jersey, as well as Long Island and Brooklyn and New York, and do all the clubs if you really want to branch out and learn who's going to laugh. I mean, I did a gig. I slept in a cornfield on the way to Cleveland to do an audition set. I had an audition at a club in the Cleveland Comedy Club. I couldn't afford a room, so I pulled my 1985 Nissan Sentra into a cornfield, shut the car off, went to sleep. When the sun came up, I backed the car out of the cornfield and got back on the road to drive to Cleveland.
See,
yeah, you want it bad enough.
Have to write a book.
Wait till I tell you. I can tell you about the cruise ships. I had a nervous breakdown. That's why I didn't do those after a while. All the warm-up gigs. I started out with Jon Stewart, his original show on WOR here in New York, and then after I did his show in '93, then it was Rosie for 6 years, Martha Stewart for 7 years. Now I'm going into my 9th year with Rachel, and that's besides AGT and all that other stuff. I mean, I have so many stories. I've almost got stabbed a couple of times while I was on stage, and I have so much I can tell you, but you're right.
You worked on The Apprentice, right? You said you did The Apprentice live?
I wound up The Apprentice finales.
Was that Donald?
Yeah, not a fan. So I did those when the Apprentice finales, Survivor finales. They used to be live in the city, So the finales used to be live. So I used to warm up those. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire when Meredith Vieira had it. I would do Allie and Jack. Allie Wentworth had a show with Jack Ford, and I would do that at CBS and leave there and do 4 millionaires in a day. Just a lot.
Energy level that's a lot. People don't realize, but it's very, very physical.
Yeah. And also, I love my wife. I love my kids, and I wanted to give them. I saw how hard my father had to work. He was a crane operator for Con Edison, and he had to do like overtime and work in Queens and all over the place, all hours of the night. And I realized, and he also was our coach, Little League coach, and Little League. He managed. He was the president of the Little League and stuff. And my mom would work in the concession stand. I realized how much my parents really loved us to be able to do what they wanted to they did whatever they could do, whether it was helping us with baseball and working hard or whatever, to give us what we wanted. And he still drove cars that broke down. My mother worked in a plastics factory, and they did what they had to do. So I realized that in order to give my family what I wanted to give them, I had to work hard. But I also wanted to follow my dream as much as possible. And it really is a 1 in a million shot. I've seen so many comedians, people start to become a comedian and then they leave the business, or they get discouraged and they leave the business. I mean, luckily, who am I? I mean, you know what I mean? By God's grace, I was able to be a stand-up during the day, doing the warm-up shows and do my own shows and make a decent living at it. I mean, it's a 1 in a billion thing to have happen.
How did you get to the first warm-up? I mean, because I think you're shortchanging yourself. You're very smart. Again, it goes back to the intuition, like I was saying, which makes you a good warm-up. There was something about each thing that said, oh, that's a good thing. But the warm-up was, that's obviously a very big thing, because that's what was consistent. But like, what was that? How did that like happen? What is like the first story of the, like, oh, hey.
It was, I started comedy 80, 81. I started doing the clubs, and I started doing some cruise ships and stuff. And then Jeff Sussman, I don't know if you know Jeff, he manages Kevin James and Joe Rogan, and he's one of my best friends to this day. He's my fishing buddy too. He doesn't manage me anymore, but we're still one of my best friends. When he was managing me at the time, I was also with William Morris. He was friends with Segunda, Barry Segunda, whose sister Ruth Ann Segunda later became an agent. I was wound up with her, but he was friends with Barry Segunda, who managed Jon Stewart. And I guess they met somewhere and they were talking, and Barry said to Jeff, do you have anybody that could do warm up for John's show? And he said, well, I got Joey Kola. I guess he would love to do it. And I guess they ran it by John, and I knew John from the clubs. We used to do Catch together in all the clubs. So I guess they okayed it. And I did Jon Stewart's original show, the Jon Stewart Show. It was a local WOR Channel 9 show, like a variety show. So I did that for a year, or as long as the run was. Ironically, it's upstairs from where Rachel is now, where Wendy Williams is. Ironically, show. Yeah, so I did that with him for about a year or two. And then I went back on the road a little bit because I got some heat, because I was doing Evening at the Improv. I did 4 of those, and Caroline's Comedy Hour, and A&E's Comedy Club Network, and Showtime, and HBO, and a bunch of those little comedy shows, MTV Half-Hour Comedy Hour. So I did a bunch of those, and I got some heat from that. So I started going on the road, and then I did this. Bud Friedman had this big comedy convention out in Vegas in the 90s, and I did that. So I met a lot of club owners and other comedians to network a little bit. And then there was cruise ship people there. So I auditioned for the cruise ship people, and then I started doing cruise ship work too. So I had the cruise ships going, and then I had the road going. I did every state in the union. I was doing England. I went over to England with Bonnie Raitt. I did this show called Live at the Paramount. It was me, Bonnie Raitt, Kid Creole and the Coconuts, and Pam Matheson, who was the other comedian. Rest her soul, she was on the show in England. And then Rosie came along in '96 when I was leaving my Letterman spot. Literally, she called Jeff's cell phone and said, "Can you come over and warm up the Rosie show?" And then I started warming up Rosie, which became my day job. So I was able to come off the road and just do local stuff, and road on the weekends or when I was on a hiatus from Rosie. And then after Rosie came, Millionaire and a bunch of other little shows, and Martha Stewart for 7 years. And right after Martha Stewart, I went right to Rachel Ray, and I'm going into my 9th season with Rachel Ray, and her 15th season will start in September. And in the meantime, there was warm-up gigs that came up that I couldn't do, so I gave them to other comics that needed some help, like RC and Richie Byrne and Mike Burton, and I helped Dina Blizzard got involved, and there's just a bunch of warm-up comics that I kind of trained and helped along the way. Some of them were able to make it, some of them not, because when you're doing warm-up, there's a lot going on. It's not only you and the audience. You have to have your eye on the host, listen to what they're saying, your eye on your stage manager, and your executive producer on the floor. So you have to give the executive producer what he or she wants. You have to also take signals, time cues from your stage manager. You got to listen to the host and see what they're doing and what they're talking about. If they're going to throw the commercial, you got to get that round of applause coming in. And you also have to keep that 150 people in front of you very amused. And you have to narrate what's going on. Now, Rachel's a daytime thing, but when I warm up a sitcom like Kevin James's show, that takes 3 or 4 hours. So I have a DJ with me playing music. We're handing candy out, giving them pizza, doing dance contests. And also, that's an actual story that has to be narrated. So I have to say, okay, guys, remember what happened in that last scene? What do you think is going to happen? And sometimes they'll do a scene 4, 5, 6 times in a row, and they'll change the jokes around. So I'll say, okay, guys, remember what was said there? They might tweak it a little bit, change it around. So look for the jokes, and we need you to laugh just as hard at the new jokes as you did with that joke. And remember, what you guys laugh at is going to be kept in the show or knocked out of the show. So the warming up a sitcom is completely different than a daytime thing. And then there's late night. I filled in for Eddie Brill a couple of times at Letterman after I had done the spot on the Letterman. And you got to really see what Letterman wants from his audience. They don't want signals. They want it to be as natural as possible. But welcome them to the show and give them a comedic hit right in the beginning. And if it's needed during the show, the host will let it go. But he had Paul Schaefer and music there. See, Rosie had John McDaniel and McDLTs. So when there's music in between, you could use which is a great gift to have. You could use the band to keep the everything upbeat in the studio also. But Rachel, we don't have a band. We do 3 shows a day. So it's basically, everything is Rachel and me bouncing off Rachel as much as I can, and the guests. Some guests show up when Regis shows up, him and I sing together. We sing Dean Martin songs. And that is not only precious and a gift that God gave to me that I was able to do in my life, but it's also such a gift to that audience in that moment. When Carol Burnett shows up and I have the audience on their feet singing, I'm so glad we had this time together. There's nothing but magic. When Julie Andrews shows up and I have the audience on their feet singing Do a Deer. Do a Deer, Ellen. Do a Deer to Julie Andrews. That's Mary Poppins.
I'm like my favorite movie when I was a kid, of course.
Chills.
So again, the book will be out in the fall of 2021. Joey will be going on a book tour. I will be booking him, so just email me, Ellen Karis, at hotmail.com, and we'll get you the
All right.
And I'm going to proofread it. I'm telling you, listen.
I would love to incorporate you. I really would. I have great respect for you. Not only are you funny and you stand up and your way, you have a beautiful aura about you and your way, but you're also very smart, very, very intelligent. And like we talked about in the very beginning of this thing, your soul comes through with all your words, and all your emotion comes through. And that's what I gravitate to. Those are the people I gravitate to. I'm sorry it took so long for us to do this. But I literally was getting up at 5:30, coming home at 6:30 at night, almost all during the week. And every weekend, if I wasn't napping to do shows at night, it was with my family on Sundays. So I really had no time. I wasn't really doing anybody's podcast. But listen, I want to do this many shows with you if we could. And I'll keep you posted on everything that I'm doing. And I want you to keep me posted on what you're doing. And if we can work on any projects together, Ellen, I would love that.
Absolutely. We can maybe do our own little talk show.
Yeah, there you go.
But listen, you're again, so well respected. You're so talented, and listening to you talk about everything that you've done and how you've done it and your process, it just solidifies why you are as good as you are. And I find you fascinating, and I just think it's great. This gives me hope in humanity. I am going to watch this when I am down because we really do need more of this. I try to say sometimes, we all have our little sayings, and one of my other sayings is I don't care, right, left, this and that. I got my opinion, you got yours. It's fine. It's cool. It's good. I mean, this is America. That's the beauty of
Right.
America. And when I see everybody losing their shit on Facebook and fighting, and I defriended and I blocked, and I'm like, what? Which is why I don't put anything political on. And if it is something political, it's got to be it's got to have a humorous slant to it, and it's got to be something where I know it's neutral. You know what I mean? Like pretty much nobody really likes De Blasio, so like I'll do something like that. But other than for the most part, I stay away from it. Aside from the fact that it will suck hours that you'll never get back. But they always say
on the other side of people know where I stand politically. If you don't have to go far to figure that out. But I have friends that are Democrats, Republicans, Independents, progressives, all over the spectrum. And some of my best friends. Actually, I have one friend who's not only a really good friend, but a mentor, and he's a complete atheist, completely. And he's one of the most moral Christian people I know, and he's a complete atheist. I don't know anybody that is more generous and moral than this guy. So you learn from everybody. You could learn from a bum in the street, and you can learn from a millionaire. It doesn't, or someone who's very successful. Successful to me is being able to do what you want with your time. If you could have no money in the bank, but if you're doing what you want with your time, that's successful to me.
Right.
You know.
Right. I know. I completely agree with that. And I say, just how about this? Be a good person. Why is that difficult? The 10 Commandments, very simple to follow. Doesn't take any.
Well, that's Old Testament. That's Old Testament. New Testament, he only gave us 2. He said, "Keep me as God, and do unto each other as you'd have done unto yourself." He realized there's 1,896 years between Moses and Christ. Did you know that? Between Moses and Christ, it was 1,896 years.
I believe you. Okay.
Christ to us, there's 2020. Right. So some drastic changes had to happen, because it's more than 1,900 years. It's 2020 years. So I think about now that if he was here, he would accept a lot of things that old school biblical people, theologians, don't accept, because they're too tied to whatever that old school rationale may be. Humanity has changed. The box that holds the soul that is from there has changed in a positive way. People would be more accepted than what I think old school rules are leaving room for. And I think if Christ was here, which he is, he makes for that. And where you see it most prominently is when you see good deeds being done for everybody across the board. And we know it because it's not something that's said or something that can be written down. All of us, good or bad, can feel it. And if you live your life by that feeling, we know when we're around a good soul or a bad soul. We know when someone's greedy or not. You know it inherently, like a dog. A dog knows. Animals know. We know also. Yes. So to steer yourself, not only steer yourself away from the bad, but try to steer the bad person towards the good. That's the trick. And if you could do it with stand-up comedy by making people laugh, which is one of the most basic instincts. You know, it's such a basic thing, laughing, you know? And that's why I think I went into it at a young age, because I realized how happy it makes people. You know, being able to make my mother laugh, my father laugh. Is there anything better than that? Then you go out to try to make strangers laugh. I mean, you know as well as I do, and it's happened to you a million times as it's happened to me. When you're done with a show and someone who just finished chemo comes up to you and says, "I just finished chemo. I just came from my dad's funeral. I just came from blah, blah, blah. And you took my mind off that and made me laugh." Ellen, is there a better feeling than that on this planet?
No, and you know what? For me, that was aside from having grown up and watching Lucille Ball and Carol Burnett and just loving those women and loving what they did, and they got to be silly and funny and smart. But that was also a very big part of it. Just I wanted to have a place. I wanted to be a part of the place where people got to take their mind off of the everyday, whether it's the mundane or whether it's the really, really serious. And
Right.
it's very weird because I think too, because I worked so many years in accounting and finance, and it's very like cut and dry, black and white, deadline oriented.
Right.
There's a hierarchy, blah, 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 blah. And I needed something. I knew there was more, and I needed a place, and I knew other people needed a place to get away from that. And then there's nothing wrong with that, but you need that respite. I know. I mean, it's just great. And stand up. And I know you'll agree with this. You have to want to do this. It's too hard. It rips your soul, if you let it. And you really have to want. That has to be the purpose. It can't be about wanting to be famous. That's
No.
That is
And
the
that's why
wrong purpose.
I choose gigs now by a vibe I get from the phone call from the gig. Like any people can call me and say, Joey, I got a gig for you. 8:00 this Saturday. Here's the money. I need you to do this, this, and this. I'll know within 10 seconds on the. Now, if I know the person, like if it's a Bobby Gonzo or if it's somebody, Gemini or any of the governor's people, I know that that's going to be a good gig because that's my home. That's the clubs that I've done a million times, the people that I've worked with a million times. I have certain faith in people that they're not going to put me in a bad situation, that the gig's going to be good. But say someone new is booking me. I'll know by asking some questions, but I'll know in a few minutes whether it's for me or not. And I turn down so many gigs now, not because I want to make it look like I have some kind of attitude. It's not for me. Like I've turned down about 6 Zoom shows already because I know that it's a carpenter working without wood. You know what I mean? I need certain elements to make what I do work. And if I'm respectfully, I'm going to say, thanks guys, but I can't, this is not my thing right now. I mean, something may transpire where what I do is going to be applicable to it. But as of right now, that's just not it. And it's any kind of a gig at a venue, like they'll say, oh, we got a big, like recently someone said, I got a big outdoor venue for you. It's going to be 3,000 people. The money's going to be great. Well, to me, what I do doesn't work outdoors. It just doesn't work. I've done outdoor shows where I've completely bombed. And to me, comedy I need a low ceiling, 200 people, a mic and a light, and I'll give you everything you want. Then I'll earn my money, But theaters, if I could do 1,000-seat theater, and the conditions are right, it's perfect. But I'm only picking and choosing the gigs that I know are going to make me feel good about doing it. Chances are when you do that, the audience has as much fun as I'm having, and it's a win-win. It's a win-win.
Right. No, you've done enough things where you've forced yourself into a situation for whatever the reason was.
I can't even tell you.
And it's like, and the fact that you can do that now, you've earned that right. You've done it all. You've earned that right to be able to do that. I think that's amazing. I don't even know how to end this. I adore you. I also want people to know that you are so beloved, okay? And this only goes to special people, that Governor's has a hamburger named after you. Now, let me tell you something. When you're a comic, a comedian, a celebrity, and you go into a restaurant establishment and there is a food named after you, like all the delis had all the, we don't have the Carnegie anymore on the stage, but they all had the Jack Parr, and you have the Joey Kola burger, which I want to tell people is a delicious hamburger with corn tortilla chips on it, fries and slaw and a pickle. So that is the nirvana, to have your name on a menu next to a food. And I didn't realize that you love chocolate. I love chocolate. I eat it every single
Chocoholic every single day.
day.
Every day.
It is, I cannot, and I try to, eat healthy as much as I can, but so I do dark chocolate, but s'mores, German chocolate, anything, cupcakes, Entenmann's,
Me
all
too.
of it. It's delicious.
Yeah.
I love it. I know we had a lot in common.
We do. This has been great. Thank you so much. I mean, call me anytime. I'll do this as many times as you want. It's like I said before, it's been an honor to talk to you and be in your presence and actually have your attention for this long a time. The caliber of person that you are. And next time I could talk about raisin butterflies. I plant curly parsley for the black swallowtail. I plant milkweed for the monarch. And I release a couple of hundred of each of those every summer. I'm planting my parsley now. As soon as we finish, I'm going back out. And I feed birds. I get many varieties of birds in my house. And I plant plants. And that's it. Simple.
You're very
Just
close to
really
me.
simple
Yeah.
life. Not only simple, but I'm very appreciative of the simple. Like I said before, like my wife and I are able to just have hot dogs tonight, a nitrite-free, healthy hot dog. We're going to sit in the back. We'll have a glass of something, and it really is. If the people that can appreciate the very small, simple things in life, you're really going to be much happier, and your anxiety is going to be gone. If you really appreciate simple, keep your expectations really, really low. And when you do that and you open yourself and you're vulnerable, you'll be surprised at what comes in.
The great Joey Kola, Kola. Just Google him. I went on your website, by the way. You have like a 15-minute video. I was crying before I was crying.
Yeah, if people want to see what I do, just go to YouTube or my website. There's plenty there.
Great. And then are you on Instagram?
Yep.
You're on Facebook. You're on Instagram. Okay.
Yep.
And
My
Twitter.
fan page.
Okay.
If they want to friend my fan page on Facebook.
Okay, good. Do that. All right, stay on. I'm going to stop the recording and then just to
Okay.
talk to you for
Bye,
a second.
guys.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.